Up next on the Parth and Pratham show.
I know you're not gonna like this freshman.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Freshmen?
So freshmen
No
are less.
way.
So the juniors and seniors are definitely more mature, and they have a more adult perspective, which is nice. But they're so jaded and focused on college, and a lot of them. You may be an exception, but a lot of them do not know why they are supposed to go to college except money.
It's the Parth and Pratham show.
Okay, hi, my name is Parth of the Parth and Pratham show, and today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 virus and a teacher's perspective. So, the COVID-19 virus has become a captivating story around the world, truly affecting everybody. This virus has forced many people to stay home and shelter in place. The silver lining of the government order is that the environment has benefited. Less people are commuting to work, and as a result, they're using their car less often, and there's less emissions. I'm going to pass it to my boy Pratham. He's going to introduce our next guest.
Thanks, Parth. According to the Business Insider, gas prices nationwide have dropped down to $1.90, down from their nationwide average of $2.60 a gallon. An environmental science teacher at Dublin High School, Janet Kaehms, she is pleased by this. Less fossil fuels in the air help the environment, and the environment needs help right now. Please welcome to the Parth and Pratham podcast our 18-year veteran teacher of Dublin High School, Janet Kaehms. Hi, Ms. Kaehms.
Yay!
Hey guys, it's great to see you.
All right, so Ms. Kaehms, tell us about yourself. What was your childhood like?
What was my childhood like? I grew up locally. I'm a California native. I grew up in San Leandro, California. We played outside a lot. I had a brother and sister, and we used to play with the neighborhood kids in the street, playing kickball and tag, and we used to call it ditch, right? Not tag. It was team tag, and we called it ditch.
Oh. Were you very good at it? Did you and was it like a daily thing?
Was it daily? Was I good at it? I was the youngest, so I wasn't that good. But they let me play anyway, right? You let everybody play. Was it daily? In the summer, absolutely, right? So in my neighborhood, it was definitely middle class, and parents were all working, mostly. I mean, there were a few stay-at-home moms, but like my mom was a single parent, and she would go to work, and we were left unsupervised in the summer, and we would go, right, because there was no school, and we'd go run around and watch, play and watch TV and do whatever we wanted. But we were, good kids, so it was okay.
Yeah.
It was very different than your existence, right? Very different.
I mean, yeah, so you could say like a majority of your childhood was like spent outside, just like,
yes.
I don't want to say in the elements because that's not necessarily true.
No.
But just outside dealing with like nature, but also just being outside,
Just being outside. Yeah, we played outside. And in fact, my mother on a Saturday morning, even during the school year, if I was still inside watching cartoons or something by like 9 a.m., she would give me chores. Oh, I need some weeds to be pulled. Oh, you need to vacuum. So I learned to get up and get out. She was fine with me going out to play, but sitting around the house was not going to happen. Mm-mm.
And so, like, has that mindset of like being outside and being active, has that like shaped your entire life?
Absolutely.
And like the things you do now?
Yes. Right. So, yes, I go outside. Like this morning, I drank my coffee outside because I could. I just went and sat in the yard and watched the birds. I like to hike. I like to swim outdoors, but not inside. I like to camp and just like the movement of the air and watching things go by. I can watch birds in a tree a lot better than I can watch TV.
Okay, so just shifting gears, you are a teacher. So what inspired you to be a teacher and like pursue that avenue of being an educator?
So it's not like something a lifelong passion or anything. I was the youngest, so I didn't know much about kids. And I got a degree in biology. I went to college because my parents wanted me to. I picked biology because I like animals. And then college was not hard. I did not go to like a super challenging school. I just went to a local state school. And I got to the end of my degree and I was like, now what? I don't want to be a lab tech, right? That's the other option if you're just getting your bachelor's, was a lab tech. I knew I didn't want to work inside sitting down at a bench. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try teaching. And I started by subbing. You have to have some experience to get into teaching. And it was easy to sub. All you needed to do was pass a test and have a degree, and they let you sub. You know, you get fingerprinted, whatever. And then I got into the program and I started student teaching. And that's when I knew I liked it. You know, when I was subbing, when you're just running somebody else's lesson plans, you're kind of a babysitter, really. I mean, you're a glorified babysitter, you're well paid. But it's not really teaching. But as soon as I was a student teacher and I was in charge of shaping the learning, it's like my brain caught fire. I mean, I would wake up with ideas about analogies and I would just see the connections, right? Everything would connect. It would line up, right, in my head. And I was like, well, how can I emphasize that? And how can I make that more clear? And how can I make that hands-on so the kids like it? And it's very engaging. Teaching is a fantastic profession. I mean, if you're thinking about something, if you're not worried too much about money, like you know how to be frugal and you really want to enjoy what you're doing, teaching is fantastic. It really is. Because you have so much choice in what you're doing, and it's so important, right? It's so important and it helps people so much. So
Did you have a favorite teacher? Did you have a favorite teacher in high school?
I
Or did you just
liked
not like
everybody.
school until that point?
I liked school. I liked the schedule. I liked having someplace to go and something to do and seeing my friends, and the teachers were not nice. Just like my childhood was very different. My schooling was very different. Almost nobody worried about grades.
Oh, I guess.
Almost nobody. To get into Cal, when I graduated high school, you needed a 2.8. I qualified. I graduated with like a 3.1 from high school, and you needed a 2.8 and an SAT score. My SAT score was enough, so I qualified to apply to Cal. And both my parents had gone to Cal, so I did not go there. I did not want that, but it was. Now nobody with less than a 3.9 even applies, right?
Yeah.
You 3.9 and you're a fantastic something, right? You're a fantastic
test
runner,
taker, or you have to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Something
to
meaningful.
have fantastic podcasts.
Yeah, sure.
So you just a moment ago you talked about how you like hands-on when you were a student teacher, and that experience really sparked your love of becoming a teacher.
Yeah.
So at our school, DHS, you teach the Biomed Academy, the pathway for Dublin high school students aspiring to be medical professionals, honors anatomy, and then AP environmental science. And you also used to teach biology, the advanced biology.
Right,
so
biology.
How do you make these classes hands-on? And why
Well,
do you
technically science, to get science credit for the UC system, 20% of your time is supposed to be spent in lab. 20%, like a whole day every week. So that's like the minimum. How did I strive? I feel like you didn't see me at my best for hands-on unless you had bio research with me. That one was really super hands-on. You just build it that way. One change that I have seen, I've been teaching for a long time. I used to, when I first was teaching anatomy, I would find, when we would talk about little things, when we talked about diffusion and Brownian motion, I would get some dye out and the microscopes out, and you put dye in water and look at it under high power, and you can see the particles moving and shifting due to Brownian, just because they vibrate. And it would do stuff like that just to really show students stuff. And it got to the point at the end of the school year where students would be like, I don't want to get out of my seat. Can we just sit here? I believe you, Miss Kaehms. Don't show me anymore. So you got to find a balance with that, between the hands-on and the, just other lecture learning, project-based. I like projects. I think hands-on is naturally more engaging. And if you build curriculum that the students can do themselves instead of just reading a book and answering questions or watching a video and answering questions, that's super dry. It's not very engaging at all. I have found that kids like to do stuff themselves, and they want to do it with their friends, right? They want to do it with their friends. So the project Lead the Way curriculum is built that way. It's built to be hands-on and that's the bottom of it, hands-on and engaging. But before I even went to that training and started teaching those classes, biology with research that I had created already was there. They had short-term projects, long-term projects, group work, they could choose whether or not to work in a group or not. I find that students like it better. Their learning goes deeper. There's always the thought that they need to learn more or they need to go deeper, right? Do you need to go broad and shallow, or do you need to go deep and see the connections? So I prefer that students go deeper, but that means you're sacrificing breadth, right? They won't know as much about a lot of minutia, but they will become knowledgeable on one or two topics. So
yeah, I think projects are like a great way to really understand the concept, because working with friends kind of motivates you, because you, in like class assignments, you're like, okay, let me finish this quick because I'm going to go hang out with my friends in the end. But if I'm working in a group project with them, I'm already with them, so you're already having your fun then. And that's
right. And what you said about fun, that absolutely happens. When you listen from an adult perspective, when you listen to a group of students doing group work, are they off task? Absolutely. They get off task, but then they come back. They come back either through their own, regulation, like somebody will say, hey, I don't want to have homework tonight, so can we get back? Or what did you get for this? Or the teacher will walk around and they'll go, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be doing this thing. But you know what? You might not know this, but when you watch a group of adults work, when they're in the same room together, that's what they look like. That just like you guys, they get off task, they check their phones, and then they wander back and get to work. So how can you expect students to look more on task than the adults do? So that's one thing that, having this perspective, this long-term teaching has given me, is that project work is important because that's what you really do in the real world. You do project work, and you cannot expect, people, students or adults, to just work all the time. I mean, if you can get students and adults to work 70% of the time, then you're going to get so much done, really. And that's way more comfortable than that, super focused, must get it done, extreme environment.
70% hard work is better than 100% faking it.
Yeah. Or
Facts.
yes.
Okay.
Right?
All right,
I mean,
Pratham.
fantastic.
I see
Some
you.
people are extraordinary, right? And they can just get stuff done, right? They just are very bright and they can really get it done and they see all this relevance. But even learning like that, super focused for 20 or 30 minutes, you need to step back and then reflect and talk to somebody about it so that you can see the deeper relevance, right? Because when you talk about something, you see the deeper relevance. When you talk to each other, when you talk, and you might not even, and our brains are kind of scattered, right? Just like my talking is kind of scattered. So you might be focusing on one thing and then bounce to another, right? And have an insight. Oh, well, that means, if we're talking about global warming, and then you can have this link back to your old knowledge of the carbon cycle, and you're like, wow, you have those
and I think
minutes.
when you talk to other people, it like fosters that like new perspective that you get.
Yeah. So you have to embrace the 30% off task.
Yeah. All right, so Miss Kaehms, you have worked in the past with a lot of levels in high school, like freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Out of those four, which are the best to work with? Like which class?
I know you're not going to like this freshman.
Really?
Oh,
Freshmen?
yeah. So freshmen
No
are less.
way.
So the juniors and seniors are definitely more mature, and they have a more adult perspective, which is nice. But they're so jaded and focused on college. And a lot of them, you may be an exception, but a lot of them do not know why they are supposed to go to college except money. So that makes them really jaded and unhappy. They take AP classes and honors classes because it looks good, not because they care about the topic, not because they're, actually interested in learning anything. And it absolutely shows through. Absolutely shows through. So freshmen, because although they're worried about their grades, it's not like seniors and juniors. Yeah.
Okay, well that's surprising because I've always thought of freshmen as like annoying, but I guess not.
Well, you're talking to somebody who wants to go teach kindergarten, so.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right. I mean, we'll get back on that later.
So as you know, the coronavirus pandemic has caused many institutions to shut down, like our school system. The Dublin High School School District switched to distance learning in mid-April for the remainder of the second semester. So as a hands-on teacher, what hardships did you face when you had to shift through distance learning?
So you need for distance learning for the transition. I really think Dr. Markin did a great job by giving us a couple weeks off. That's what he did, really. He said, just relax and think about it for a minute. And then he said, and during that time, he was handing out computers and hotspots and getting the whole district connected, because although 90% of us are relatively wealthy and have computers and Wi-Fi at home, that 2 to 5% that don't really needed the support and that time. And once he had that, for hands-on, it was almost non-existent, unless you could make people do stuff at home without you. I feel like last spring is going to look very different than this fall. Even if we do distance learning this fall, I feel like that it will be required, right? When they went past fail, when they said nobody's going to fail if you only have to do 50%, that was really just an emergency situation. Moving forward for distance learning and the hands-on, students will have to do things at home. They'll have to do the hands-on at home with simple materials. So you won't be doing electrophoresis, but you certainly can build and model. You can certainly take surveys and do stuff just by walking around or going to a park, or so there's a lot of science that you can do. on your own at home. So without any much material, right? So I think that's what's going to happen.
So I know you're
Yeah.
not thinking about coming back next year. As you said kindergarten.
I'm hoping for kindergarten. Yeah.
I wish you good luck with that. Do you know what maybe your other colleagues are thinking of doing?
I do know. So like the chemistry department has already started making podcasts. So they're like working together. They're meeting at school and wearing masks and making podcasts for the fall. They are working diligently through the summer. I don't know about biology because there's already so the advantage biology has is it's a required subject. So there's a lot of educational videos around that, crash course, amoeba sisters, just all kinds of good curriculum already there. So you don't have to do the podcast. Chemistry is not required. So it doesn't have as many. So the chemistry department's actually making them. I don't know what they're doing. I'm assuming that they will start designing simple hands-on things that you can do at home, right? That you can do individually and go that direction.
I believe chemistry is required, but maybe just not the high levels.
At Dublin High.
Yeah.
But
So it's not
most high
required elsewhere.
schools,
Yeah, it's like overall it's not.
Yeah, nationwide it's not required. Dublin High is actually very rigorous. That's why so many of the students get into Cal and UCLA and whatever, because it is a very rigorous high school compared to a lot of places. So I don't want to talk bad about anybody. It's not good.
Okay, so as you know, and as we know, you are an AP teacher, and the coronavirus basically stopped in-person schooling right before AP testing. And so the College Board did try their best to accommodate their AP test for all different types of socioeconomic levels and all different types of students. But do you think they did a good job in doing that? Because I know there were some problems with like submissions and things like that. But overall, what do you think?
I think they did a fantastic job, really. So there were problems with submissions and they were figuring it out. I mean, we were lucky that we didn't have to do the very first test. By the time we got to the AP environmental test, they had a lot of the bugs worked out. And they also gave an alternate testing date. So I think they were very accommodating and that they did a really good job. I really feel like the videos that I made you guys watch that published by the College Board were very helpful, right? They were very helpful and very direct by veteran teachers who knew what was going to be on the test. You tell me, how'd you guys do?
I think I did good. I don't know. I didn't see any problems with mine. Wait, were you able to like see the students' answers or no?
No,
like, we're not gonna ask you for
I will
specific
never
details.
be able to see your answers. I'm supposed to be able to see your scores next month.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
when you
but
get
I
your
think you'll be
scores, I'll
fine.
get them.
Okay.
I think the test, it was very rushed, so you didn't get a ton of time to think. So it really tested you if you knew the correct content. Like you didn't get much time to Google or stuff.
Well,
like that.
it was built that way, right? It knew you would have internet access and access to your notes, and you had to be
real
able to
concise
think.
with your answers.
Yeah, but you had good practice. I feel like you had good practice.
Especially in
The
your
College
class.
Board videos helped a lot.
Right. Those
Especially
guys
in your
really
class
know what
when
they're
we
doing.
had like FRQs with every test, gave us practice.
Yeah.
So this was your first year teaching environmental science. Was this the first time you started to care deeply about the environment, or was there maybe a previous turning point where you started to care?
I have always cared. Teaching environmental science, especially the AP curriculum, it seems to me that they really want you to know how bad it is. They really want you to know that it's all screwed up and we need to change. So they show you every bad thing. And there's, for me, I don't spend that much time looking at bad things. right? I mean, there's so much to choose from in life and what you focus on. So while I always cared, and I had, I have an economic car that gets good gas mileage, and I have, tried to reduce my water use or whatever. Once I taught environmental science, I redoubled my efforts for sure. And I looked deeper because I saw more. But I have always cared about the environment. I mean, I'm a biology major. I go outside. I care. And I have seen the changes, right? I'm old. So I've seen the changes in the weather. I've seen the changes in the way we use land. And some of them were beneficial. Like I told you in class, there's a lot less smog than there used to be, for sure. I mean, like even before the pandemic, there was less smog than in the 70s.
Yeah, so you said that you kind of had a shift where you actually started thinking more about the negatives and you redoubled your efforts. So are there any specific changes you made to your personal life when you were redoubling your efforts to help or do your part to preserve the environment?
Last year we invested in solar. I try to eat less meat. I am considering an electric car, but I'm kind of holding out until I can afford a Tesla. So that might be a while. Other things so that's my personal efforts, what I've been doing. Studying the environment has made me more angry at the general population because it's people that are doing this, greedy or ignorant or both people that are putting their goals over the environment, their financial gains, often very small financial gains for great harm, right? And on the other hand, it has made me like people, a different group of people who are activists, people who are doing something, who are trying to inspire others. So I'm seeing, both sides, right? The scope of the problem is huge, and I'm inspired by people who keep working in the right direction. And I have thought, if I don't get a job teaching kindergarten, what would I do, right? So the good news is that I could retire, but then what would I do with all that time? So maybe environmental education, there's a lot of it out there. I don't know that they need me, but maybe they would need a volunteer somehow. So I think about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time. I remember being in our class in February, and you were the first one who told us about the real COVID-19 threat. How did you know this could actually be a big deal? Was it your biology background?
Yeah, biology, anatomy, biomed. And it wasn't just me on the teaching staff. I mean, I teach biomed with Julie Sundstrom, and we came back. I started talking about it in anatomy and in biomed in January when we got back from Christmas break, from winter break. Because for both of us, it was like standing in front of a freight train, right? Like, here it comes. It's coming. We watched it grow in Italy. We watched it grow in Spain, came to Washington State, and it was like, oh, it's here. So it was very stressful. And trying to communicate that to students, like, no, you should care. This is important, especially environmental science, because it wasn't your topic, right? I mean, we cover a little bit of disease, like, but it's like waterborne disease or whatever. So it was very stressful to have that happen and know that I was in, a petri dish because I was in 3 classrooms every day. It wasn't just one classroom. It was, and almost every classroom I was in was busy 7 periods a day. That's 200 people a day going through the room. And I was in 3 different places doing that. So I was like, ah!
Yeah, and I remember you were the first one who was like, school is gonna shut down. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. and you were
Right.
talking about like when the date is gonna be. Is it gonna be this Monday or this Friday?
I was
Yeah,
off
but
by
like,
a week, I think, or
yeah,
two.
I didn't even believe it, but when it came, I was like, yeah. And like now I'm looking back and I was like, dang, she knew from the beginning. Like even before any national lockdowns, anything from the government or anything. It was,
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
if you read the news, you would have figured it out.
yeah.
Did you anticipate it was going to be this bad? Also, like this prolonged?
Yeah. So a disease reservoir is the place that the virus or the bacteria or the pathogen, whatever it is, hangs out. And as long as you have a reservoir, the disease can come at you. So like Ebola, the reservoir is bats and stuff like that. So every once in a while it pops up, right? They're still fighting Ebola over in Africa. So this virus is the same. As long as there's a reservoir, it came from the animal population. But now that it's in the human population, that's 8 billion petri dishes.
Yep.
It is a lot.
So yeah, until we get a good vaccine or herd immunity, yeah, it's going to be here. And yes, I knew that too. The hard part, like I'm on a swim team, an adult swim team, and I'm on the board, and I'm trying to convince the other members of the board that no, the team is not getting back together in May. No, it's not getting back together in June, and no, not in July either. They're like, they're still holding out. They're like, no, we're going to get back together. I'm like, no, it's not happening. But people don't want to believe, right? They don't. It's a hard sell that you have to change your whole life.
Okay, so because coronavirus has caused people to stay home, the environment has gone through some basically positive changes. There's been a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, and even seismic activity due to the reduction of fracking. So it shows that humans have a potential to fix the very environment that they ruined in the first place. What can we do to continue this positive trend, just from your perspective?
From my perspective, continuing to work remotely is at the top of my list, and several companies have already committed to that. I think Twitter and several other tech companies have already committed to working without an office or without a large building, so most of the positive things greenhouse wise have been because of less traffic, right? The next thing, so the financial economic impacts that have happened, specifically in Texas, like I have some friends that live in Texas and they said there's so many people out of work, because all those engineers that were working on the oil, right, they're laid off, right? Nobody needs oil, nobody needs, a lot less gas. So now is the time for a leader to step in and say, let's pivot away from oil. I mean, I know that you have all this money and time and whatever invested in it, but just probably you're not going to draw the owners away, right? People, it's hard, change is hard, and they want to keep doing what they're doing because it's been good in the past for them. But somebody needs to lead and pull those engineers away towards renewable energy, right? So give them jobs doing something else, something that will help the environment. And then push for cheaper electric vehicles with better battery recycling, right? So just that for a lot of our, when you look outside of industry, it's the people rushing around in their cars that is causing a lot of the pollution, right? That's a big piece. So that would be easy to sustain if we just tilted a little bit, right? Since we've already experienced, letting go of our vacations or thinking local or whatever. Let's just push a little harder for renewable energy.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, like this crisis is kind of like a turning point where I think that if we look to the future from this, we can kind of like change and just use this as the natural stopping point of like natural gas and oil. and then we can.
Right. The natural stopping point. So you see that reflected in the stock market. A lot of companies are not doing well. They're tanking, but they're mostly old tech. The new tech is surging, right? Because people are like, oh, the cloud. We need the cloud.
Yeah.
So, or 5G or whatever, the next technological thing is, it's just surging. And if we can just do the same thing with energy and get away from oil and pivot to renewable, if we could find some leaders to do that. I have a feeling that people are doing that. At least I hope they are. I don't know who they would be though. I haven't read anything like, oh, so-and-so is investing so much in solar or whatever.
I think it's we need newer people to do it, because right now it's just the same people. Let's just say Bill Gates or Microsoft or
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk, exactly. But we
Those
need
are
some
big
new
names,
people
though.
to get into the thing.
If they could just, open a plant in Texas, how about that?
Yeah.
And offer cheaper energy. How about that? Right? I mean, the government subsidizes so many things to make them happen, right? Like they subsidize wheat farming, or they subsidize soybeans, or if people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk could start subsidizing renewable energy, because they're so smart, they're super smart, and they are super efficient compared to a government. They could put oil, on the back burner, so to speak.
Yeah.
They absolutely could. And now's the time. All they have to do is invest their money in that.
Speaking about new people, in September of 2019, the environment started to become a big deal among young people when Greta Thunberg kind of led a protest, or at least sparked everyone to know about the environment and the injustices that are happening. So how would you characterize young people in their quest to fix the environment?
Is there hope?
I think they're passionate. There's some really passionate people. And not just Greta. There were people at Dublin High that were passionate, and stirring other people up and realizing that. So what I have seen in the young people is they're realizing that they have to do something. If they care, it's not going to change unless they do something. So that they're getting motivated, I could watch TV, I could, Netflix on my phone, or I could get off my butt and do something that might matter. And they're starting to get up and do stuff. I have tremendous hope with the young people. Is it a large percentage of the population? It might be a significant amount, right? It might be a significant amount of people that, are willing to work a little bit to do something. So even in the 90 kids that I had in my class, 4 or 5 of you volunteered to step up and do something. Now, you had more than one reason for doing that, right? You needed it to look good, or you needed whatever, but it doesn't matter because you were doing something. It's okay to have more than one motivation for doing good, right? So as young people realize that, I see them doing it more. And then you guys are so connected socially. When somebody tweets about, I pledge to quit using single-use plastics for the next 30 days, I'm going to see how it goes. That inspires other people. It really does. So you guys are so connected, you inspire each other, and more of you are starting to do stuff like this podcast. I think it's fantastic.
Like a challenge, almost like a peer pressure, forcing others to do it.
Yeah, right. You build your community. What I don't think young people really realize is the power you have to build a community. I mean, adults do it; they do it on purpose. But because you're so connected to each other, you are building your own community, whether you realize it or not. And if you're building your community to get up off their butts and care about something, whether it's Black Lives Matter or single-use plastics or greenhouse gases or any of those things, you're building a community that cares, which is fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't want to seem like I don't know if this is condescending or not, but that's like literally the exact way this exact podcast was formed. Literally, I was thinking, I'm like, these protests going on, and I know I care, but I'm not doing enough. So I literally just called Pratham. I'm like, hey, Pratham, do you want to do something? Do you just want to make a podcast? I can make a website for it. We'll just put it. And he's like, yeah, of course. I was thinking about literally the same thing. And so we just got there. In a week, we just put together our website. We started a YouTube channel, got all this together. And then we just started interviewing people and getting our opinions out. And so I really think that it's just, you need the motivation to be like, okay, I'm not doing enough. Let me just go and do something. Like, I have a little bit of time. Let me just do it. And then, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right? I mean, absolutely. That's exactly how it works. People just realize that it matters and nobody else is going to do it. Or even if they are doing it, they need a bigger push. So I'm going to add my little push. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So I have a lot of hope that young people and older, I have a little something to give, but I'm just not, I'm easily distracted. I guess, right?
Yeah. Wait,
Well,
Pratham, is this one yours?
So what resources would you recommend to young people who are looking to make a change in the environment?
What resources? The internet, right? That's a very general term. But mostly you need to look inward, right? The internet has information on how to do it, but it's so big, and there's, as you know from taking AP Environmental Science, there's so many things going wrong all at the same time. From Flint, Michigan, with the fracking causing water problems, to oil spills, to mining, to whatever it is, right? There's just so much going wrong. How can you, as an individual, do anything that matters? So just pick one or two things. Do a little research. Pick one or two things to change in your personal life. It might be, I'm not taking any more 40-minute showers. Or a 40-minute shower is a once a week thing instead of a daily thing. Just some change. For me, I try really hard not to use single-use plastics. No baggies. Like for my sandwiches, no baggies. No plastic cups or plates. When I'm camping, I actually do dishes. So just find one or two things to work on and encourage others to do the same. Now, here's the bad thing. Unfortunately, much of our protective legislation for the environment is gone. This current administration has pretty much destroyed the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which needed change. I get that it needed change. It was top heavy and bureaucratic and a lot of red tape, and but it made people care and check. So we need something to replace it if we're going to remove it. So basically, people have to do their own research and choose one or two things that they can change. And then when that gets comfortable, choose one or two more. Right? I mean, if you're not an activist, if you're not going to go around telling everybody to fix things and working to fix them, fix yourself. Work on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I like just based on the people we've interviewed in the past, this like constant development idea is kind of key. Even with the police officer, he's like, the training I received in 1999, it was not up to date, but I received training every, like, I think it's like 1 or 2 years or whatever, to update myself on the topics and whatever problems that arise as the time goes on. So
Right.
when you find something, you're comfortable with it, move on, find something else, get uncomfortable, and then get comfortable again. I really like that, like, little procedure, and it's a nice trend to have in your life.
It is, right? It's fantastic that you figured that out still in high school. I don't think I was that focused. In high school, I was not that focused. I was like, what? Just show up, right? That's one thing that I see the internet has done positive for youth. it's giving you a broader perspective, right? That boom, broader perspective, and the realization that there's not an end point, that it's a journey, and you have to keep polishing yourself.
Yeah, and like you can see events and things that are happening around the world, so you're not just contained in your little bubble. But yeah, so if people can talk to you, contact you, or if you want to like plug something, now's the time. Do you have like a social media or anything? Like we can plug your Facebook if you want.
If they want to reach out to me, they should probably reach out via email.
Mm-hmm.
Janet Kaehms at Gmail. But I am on Facebook, but I probably go on like twice a week, and and I might not see you or whatever. So if you want to really talk to me, send me an email, Janet Kaehms at Gmail.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on our show. It was amazing. I really loved this episode.
It felt like a true conversation. I'm just checking my watch right now. We recorded 44 minutes of content. That's almost like a class period. It felt really fun catching up with you again.
Oh, thank you. Amazing. Thank you. You guys are amazing. And that's one thing that's amazing about Dublin is that it has kids like you, kids that are awake and trying to do something. And I hope it works. I hope you, in 10 years, who are you going to be inspiring? Right? That's what I want to see.
Exactly.